Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Let's talk goalies with Michael Russo. This is the Russo-Hockey Show, part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. I'm Jim Souhan from Star Tribune. Thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. Thank you to our sponsors, Twill in the Dining Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, and Bite Squad. Remember, next two live shows coming up quick here, November 13th and November 20th, 7 o'clock at Tin Shed in Savage. TinShedMN.com is the best place to check out show times, their menu, their deals, everything else. We appreciate them hosting the shows. We always have a great time out there. If you haven't been to a show, come out and meet everybody. It's a great group. Michael is in San Jose. We're going to kind of make this a pregame podcast, but as with all of our podcasts, we'll talk about a lot of things that are not game related. So if you end up hearing this later in the week, most of the issues will still be relevant. Let's start with the goalies, Michael. I hate using cliched terms like, goalie controversy or whatever. So I'll just let you characterize where this team is with its goalies right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now Dubnyk is struggling, and Alex Stalock is getting 2 starts in a row to start an important 4-game trip. So it's obvious right now the faith that Bruce has in Doobie. But as one of our freelancers for The Athletic tweeted last week, I thought it was really funny, actually. And no offense to Alex at all, but Tony Abbott, one of our freelancers, tweeted something like, when you have a 32-year-old backup as your backup, it's not really a goalie controversy. And that's just the reality, is that eventually Doobie is going to get back into the net. Right now, I talked to Billy Guerin about him this morning, and his whole goal is just to have him continue to work with Bob Mason and try to get his confidence back. He obviously is struggling right now. I'll have the numbers in a story that I'm working on right now. I'm working on a goaltending story on Doobie and also maybe a potential succession plan for him eventually when his contract is up here right now. And I'm either going to make it my quote-unquote gamer tonight or it'll appear in The Athletic tomorrow. But I pulled up some numbers during the Anaheim game the other night. And in his first, and I'm probably going to get this completely wrong because I wrote it in my file the other night and haven't gone back in it. But in his first 130 games with the Wild, he gave up 3 or more goals. He gave up 4 goals, so more than 3 goals, something like 9 times. And right now, the one thing that we've seen in the last year and definitely the start of this season is a bit of deterioration. And, he feels like he feels good in net. He feels like really nothing has changed, that goals are just going in on him right now, that he's got to fine tune some things. But the numbers don't lie, Jim, and his numbers continue to go down here. So they've got to figure it out with him. They've got no choice. I mean, he's their $4.5 million goalie with another year left on his deal. He's still the number 1 goalie, but until he gets his game back on track here, if Alex continues to play well, you've got to continue to roll with him. And so originally, Bruce planned to start Dubnyk tonight here in San Jose, but he didn't like his practice yesterday in Anaheim, Dubnyk's. And then you have Alex coming off a very well-played win the other night in Anaheim, where he made 3 huge saves in that game to keep him in the game. One when they were down 2-0, he makes a save 10 seconds after it became 2-0, and then 2 huge saves in the third period on Ricard Raquel. And then the other thing that he did that game is that he anticipates things going through the crease all the time, where he chuck pucks out of the way that could be slam dunk goals. So right now, Alex is playing sharp, and he'll get the second straight start here tonight in San Jose.
So you mentioned, as your freelancer said, 32-year-old backup goalie. Is there any chance that Stalock is one of those late bloomers, that he could be a starter in the NHL, or is he really just a backup and a role player at this point.
I think I like Alex. I love his compete level in net. But just the size that he is, I just don't think that he could just all of a sudden be anointed as the number one here. But I do think that if Dubnyk's going to continue to, struggle, if he's going to give up goals that are backbreaking goals like he did the other night against St. Louis, you got to play Alex more. There's no reason why you wouldn't play Alex more. And so that's just going to have to be the reality. Doobie's going to have to get his game back on track here. You have negative thoughts that start to creep in your head. And that's always the double-edged sword when it comes to struggles for goalies is they hate to talk about it because, the more outside noise, the more articles written about it, all of a sudden it just makes it so much more difficult to get back on track. I talked to Bob Mason a lot about that today and how they're trying to really work with him almost in a private situation and not really talk about this a lot because they don't want they don't want to add the extra pressure that he's already dealing with, knowing that his game is struggling. And look, Devin's not stupid. He's such a proud guy and he sees his numbers. He cannot like it. And if you remember the beginning of the year, that first game in Nashville, he played well. And then he gave up a couple tough goals. But really the next 2 or 3 games, if you look at every goal against, it's hard to blame him on a lot of them. And so what happens is now you don't get the early success. The team struggles out of the gate. They start off 1-8 on the road. And then eventually your game does start to break down. And so that's what he's dealing with now. At first, at the start of the year, it looked to me like there were some tracking puck issues. Now it's losing his edge on plays that he's either going left or right. Like the 2 goals the other night against St. Louis. I mean, he lost his post on one. It was a balance issue. And then the other one he lost his edge on. Those were 2 goals that needed to be stopped. And so right now he worked really late into the morning skate today with Bob Mason, and the goal now is to get him back on track, and maybe he winds up starting in Arizona on Saturday night. We'll see.
Stalock is listed at 6 feet. Certainly when you stand around him in the locker room, he's not a big, imposing guy. And obviously Dubnyk is a very tall, rangy guy. How big do you have to have what's considered ideal size in today's NHL, and when did size become kind of a priority?
Well, it's funny. I mean, when I started covering the league, I mean, I was looking at Guy Hebert the other day in the press room in Anaheim, and I mean, tiny. John Van Biesbroek, tiny. Mike Vernon, tiny. And then Mike Richter, small. And these guys succeeded, but it's a different world now. These pucks come at high velocity. They rise on you. There's so much traffic around the net, and you just, if you don't take up a lot of net, it's a big issue. And we saw it the other night with the second goal there. Obviously it's to me, it's not a bad goal. That goal against Stalock, he just didn't see it. It came through traffic, but if he's bigger, it probably hits him. So, that's the big thing. I'd like to get that tape measure out on Alex Stalock and see if he's really 6 foot, right. By the way. Yeah. I think that right now Alex is playing well. He's a beloved teammate. Not that Devin's not, but so the other night, I mean, you read the quotes from Eric Stahl after the game. It's hard not to read between the lines. They were excited with the goaltending that they got that night and against Anaheim, I'm saying. And so we'll see if it continues here. If to me, if Stalock, Bruce's job is to win. I know some fans are like, this is awful. Ride with Dubnyk so they could lose some games here and try to get a top pick. But Bruce's job is to win. And so if Alex has another really quality game in San Jose, it's hard not to continue to roll with Alex for a while and give Devin the time to get back on track. In Anaheim the other day after the game, the next day, so yesterday, they had a practice where Devin was working his butt off in practice, but it just seemed like everything was going in against him, which was alarming to a lot of the coaches. And so, he's just got to continue to work with Bob and try to get his game back on track. All goalies go through this. But again, the numbers don't lie, and I do think that he's slowing down. I just, again, you look at his numbers when he first got to Minnesota. Well, just let's not even take that. Let's discount his first couple of years. So his last years with Mike Yeo and John Trichetti. Just take his first 3 years with Bruce Boudreau. His first year with Boudreau, he was the best goalie in the league maybe to March 1st. Okay, his second year with Boudreau, he was one of the best goalies in the league until February 1st. Last year, he was one of the best goalies in the league until Tom Wilson hit him in the head. And this year he's gotten off to a bad start. So we've slowly but surely seen his game start to struggle here. And that could be a sign of getting old or whatever. I mean, look at Jonathan Quick. I mean, Jonathan Quick used to be one of the best goalies in the league. Now you watch him the other night against the Wild. And then I watched him again a couple nights ago when they lost in, I think it was Toronto. And this guy is a shell of what he used to be. And age catches up to you. It's a position where you've got to be quick and net and alert and that's the concern, is that this is starting to happen now with Devin.
Absolutely. I have another question or two about.
But I will say this: the good news, and this is what I was talking to Billy Guerin about, is, and Billy's not actively trying to come up with a succession plan right now, but right now all their goalies in their system are playing really, really well. I mean, Capo Kakinen's gotten off to a really good start in Iowa. Matt Robson looks like a player. His numbers are incredible in Iowa, but his record's something like 1-1-3, some weird thing, weird record just because of some overtime losses. But his numbers are awesome, and everybody says that this guy's just icy in net, like nothing bothers him. And then Hunter Jones, their junior guy that they drafted this year in the mid rounds in the NHL draft, he's 12-1-1 for his junior team right now. And then Baribeau was sent to Allen just to play because they got Kakinen and Robson in Iowa, and Baribeau's hurt right now. But they've got 4 young goalies in the system that are over here in North America. And the goal here is to be patient with them and see if one of them or 2 of them could develop into somebody that could be the eventual successor to Devin Dubnyk, where all of a sudden in a year or 2, Billy Guerin doesn't have to worry about maybe wasting assets to go and acquire a goaltender. Maybe you could develop one from within.
Interesting. I have one more goalie question before we get to other topics, travel, and a lot of Twitter questions, a lot of good Twitter questions today. Do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill Edina on Instagram, Peter Millar, Crown Shop, Robert Talbot, Hickey Freeman, Barber, Johnny O, Trask, Brax, so many great brands. And every time I walk in there's a brand I haven't heard of before that Scott Dayton has found that makes just great, wearable, durable, fantastic stuff. Twill in the Edina Galleria. I'm here with my wife, Stacy. We went to Twill in the Edina Galleria the other day. We saw Scott Dayton, and I bought the nicest sport jacket I've ever owned, the most comfortable pants I've ever owned. They're Brax. A nice pair of loafers that I can wear to the ballpark. I think they're called Tracks. And I bought a bunch of Stenstrom short sleeve shirts to go with my Stenstrom nice dress shirts. And, I used to wear just disposable clothes. Now when I buy something, I buy it at Twill. I know it's going to last me the rest of my life, and it's going to be comfortable.
And on top of that, it's not just the best stuff you've ever had, but it's really everyday things that you can wear and that will fit all occasions.
Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram. So the other interesting thing here is I wonder if larger goalies, when they maybe lose a little quickness, it becomes more obvious.
Yeah, I think that's something. I think that is. Devin, he's so mechanical in that, if that's the right term. He's when he's good, he's quiet in net. He's on his angles. He's tracking pucks really well, and when he's struggling, he doesn't. And so that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, it's not like he's been absolutely god awful, but the reality is, again, it is what it is. He's struggled this year. He's 2-6-1. And one of those victories, remember, he got hurt in, so he was out in that game 21 or 2 minutes into that game. So really that victory that he got credit for, Stalock was actually in net for about 38 minutes of it, and they combined for a shutout. So really, Alex has just been the better of the 2 goalies so far this season. And so Alex is going to, probably play a lot more here. As I mentioned, I think on the last podcast, they don't have a ton of back-to-backs here the next 2 months, only 2 or 3. So you are going to either naturally have to give Alex more starts than he normally would get just to spot start him and not wear Dubé out. But this is definitely the year that Stalock's going to have to play a lot more. He's started the season playing a lot more just based on the fact that Devin got hurt for a couple games. And so Alex started 3 or 4 in a row. And so, this is, I think, a good thing, just seeing him in there right now and playing well.
Absolutely. Hey, you've been traveling in California and San Jose as we speak here on Thursday afternoon. Have you had to deal with any wildfires? Have you had any interesting experiences on this trip?
Yeah, no real interesting experiences, but I will say when I landed yesterday,